Well, good morning, gentlemen. All right, welcome to another Blackbird workshop. And let's see here. I'm seeing a bunch of usuals in the room today. So I think you guys all know the drill. So if you have some Blackbird questions for me, please put them in the Q&A window and I will get them answered for you. Um, One thing to note here is we we have had some reports here, so we're not sure what's going on. That there's issues with the latest release here. Um, so yeah, fair warning. If you do upgrade to NinjaTrader, 1.8, then and if you have problems, then just back up. You just go back to NinjaTrader um, 8.1.7 there. All right. So yeah. So hopefully, yeah, we'll get to the bottom of this. Either dispel, it seems like every time NinjaTrader has an update, there's always somebody claiming, oh, there's a bug, and you know, 99% of the time there isn't. But just to let you guys know that we had a couple of reports of an issues with 8.1.8. So yeah, if you have issues with it as well, please email our support and let us know. The more confirming feedback we get, the more likely or what the more confirmations we get, the better. So yeah, and then you can always go back to the 8.1.7.2. So yeah. Well, all right. So that's kind of all I had for uh, any kind of public announcement this morning. So yeah, I don't see any questions yet for Blackbird. All right, so yeah, let's see here. All right, so as more people join us here, I will just announce again that I'm waiting for some Blackbird questions to come in. But in the meantime, guys, I am just going to mute my microphone, waiting for a question to come in or waiting for more people to join the room, right? Oh, all right. So Dwayne is new. Well, Dwayne, there must be another Dwayne in our customer base here because I recognized your name. All right. So welcome, Dwayne. I guess yeah. Let me ask another question here. Um, yeah. So for whenever I see a name in the list here that I don't recognize, I always ask if the new people would like to hear the workshop introduction. All right. So the workshop introduction is I'll explain what we do in these training workshops, and more importantly, what we do not do in these training workshops. And then secondly, I'll explain how the recordings work. So that way, if you do ask a question, you'll know how quickly you can watch that recording and how to go about and do that, right? So if you've ever been on the training workshops web page here, you can scroll down and there's the recordings and right, and here's all the recordings listed here, right, in that list. And then, or you could just go straight to the YouTube channel there as well. There we go. So there's the YouTube channel. Yeah, so that's the second thing I'll explain, and then the last thing I'll explain is what custom indicators, or what third-party indicators I can install into my machine here, and because every once in a while somebody will have a question about using a custom indicator. So, right. So if you'd like to hear that workshop introduction, let me know, and I'll get that done here for you. So let me finish reading the rest of your question like that. Yeah, so Dwayne's interested to know how to create an entry signal and an exit signal for a scalping system. Yeah, well, Dwayne, your question is extremely too vague. So, so I'll just give you a kind of a vague answer, which is you put together your trading rules. What's your trading, what's the system rules for entering, and what's the system rules for exiting, right? Write those rules down, and then you would use Bloodhound to build the entry signals and the exit signals here. Let's see here. For example, let's look at the Bloodhound workshop list here. So this is not a Bloodhound workshop, so I'm not going to go into detail with Bloodhound here. That was yesterday. So, but if you look at the Bloodhound list, actually, yeah, great. Yeah, it didn't have to go very far. All right, so the most current topic here on there kind of has a list, right? So this shows how to build a classic Renko pullback signal, right? And then here's what I really wanted to point out is a long signal occurs when on the following conditions, right? And so here's trading rule number 1, right? Here's trading rule number 2, and then trading rule number 3, right? So if you can probably like watch one of these videos, right, and you'll see how each trading rule or rule of the trading system, is converted into a Bloodhound solver, right? So so before, I guess it depends on how technically minded you are. So if you're technically minded, you can probably just jump right in and just get going here. But what I wanted to show you is, what are solvers here? So let's go to the solvers page here. And so here are all the different solvers, right? So we have comparison solvers, crossover solvers, inflection, right? A slope solver, threshold, right? Those are the core workhorses right there that that you're going to be using 95% of the time are those there, right? So you just got to figure out, going back to your system rules here, right? So if you're saying, okay, is an EMA above or below some other moving average or some other indicator, right? Keyword above or below. So, right, that tells you you're using the comparison solver, right? So, when you're doing charting, essentially all you're really doing is you're checking is one thing above or below another thing. So anyways, not to get too much in the weeds there, right? So if you're technically minded, you can probably just kind of jump in there, and just kind of read through the descriptions of these, right? This is a very short description of each of them. If you would like, a longer description, right, then you can actually go to that solvers page here, right? So there we go, right? So we can go to the comparison solver, right? And a little bit more of a description there. but more importantly, there's a video on each of the solvers, that goes through various different use cases of it, you know. So to try and, give non-technical people, a broader explanation, so that, but really, but if you're non-technical, then let me go back to the documentations page here. You need to start here for sure. So definitely go to the getting started page there, and you probably have gotten through that. So right there you go. And right there you go. Number 3 is kind of the key one there, right? So, if you're considering using multiple time frames, there you go. Like so. Now, as far as the Blackbird portion of it, if you can explain what profit target or take profit you want to use and what stop loss you want to use, and if you're not using a market entry order, then explain what kind of entry order you want to use with your scalping system there. Then I can show you how to build that in Blackbird. Okay. But there are, a bunch of videos showing you how to, set up your profit target and your stop loss. Actually, in fact, sorry, yeah, I'm right here on it. So, actually, yeah, this will take you through, and I think, I think this one will kind of take you through and build, a very simple take profit and stop loss, just so you can familiarize yourself with the layout here, right? Like for example, let's open up Blackbird here, right? So, when you're trading, the first thing you have to decide is how am I getting into the trade, right? How am I opening the position? Is it with a market? Is it with a limit order, stop order, right? Stop limit, something like that, right? So these are just quick lists here. Blackbird is not locked to any of this stuff. It's just to get you started with something, like for example, maybe you did want to enter on a moving average, and maybe it's not the EMA or the SMA. Maybe you want to enter on the HMA or something like that. This just kind of gets you started there, right? So you could just select the EMA 10, and this one says it follows. So that means that the entry order will follow the EMA 10 as it goes up or down. But just to take an example here. So the point I'm making is that quick list is not a fixed permanent type of order, right? So you can always go into your entry order, your take profit, and your stop loss, and you can always modify that quick list. So I could go in here, and if I don't want to use the EMA, then I could go in and, as I said, use, there we go, the HMA. Let's put the HMA in there. There you go. Now I just replaced the EMA with the HMA. There we go. Right. So everything is configurable, reconfigurable, readjustable. Nothing's permanent. That's the point I'm trying to make here. So, right. Same thing with the profit targets here. If you're with the scalping system, you're probably using a tick-based one. So maybe 20 ticks is too much because that's more than the typical scalping system. But you can just start with 20 ticks and then open up your profit target, go into the initial placement, right there it says 20 ticks, and you can knock it down. Okay, so again, The point I'm trying to make is everything is adjustable here. There, we'll make it 8 ticks. There you go. Yeah, and same thing with stop losses, right? So you have a bunch of, kind of predefined stop losses here on the quick list, and find the one that's closest to what, looks like what you want, and then you can go in there and adjust it to make it match exactly what you want there. So, yeah. So now, if you want to see an example of building this scalping system, then all you need to do is email, what a description of your system, how your system works. Just email that into support there. And if you can, please provide some screenshots here of some examples of scalping, right? Some scalping signals. And also what's probably more handy are a couple of screenshots of situations, market conditions, where your entry signal should not have fired off, right? So, yeah. And same thing with your exit signals. Write a description of what indicator conditions or what market conditions constitute an exit signal there as well. So, kind of write those all down and email them in, with any screenshots, that help illustrate. As they say, a picture is worth 1,000 words, and with trading, a picture is probably worth 2,000 words when it comes to trading there. So screenshots are very helpful. Yeah, and just email that in to support there, and just put on there, hey, in the subject of your email, put workshop question, all right? And then Mike will hold on to that question there for me, and then I will get it answered next week, right? So there's a reason why. Yeah, so let me go back to, there we go. So back on the training workshops page here. So you'll notice Bloodhound is on Thursdays, Blackbird is on Fridays, and there's a reason for that, right? Obviously, you need to create your entry signals and your exit signals first, which is what Bloodhound's for, right? So the entry signals come first, so that's why it's on Thursday, and then the follow-up is plugging those entry exit signals into Blackbird, so that's why Blackbird is on Fridays. So, right. Just following the sequence, of creating a trading system there. So, all right. So hopefully I haven't overloaded you with too much there, but that is kind of the broader overview of setting up a system there. All right. Now, if you have any specific questions, let me know. So as I mentioned before, if you want to see today, how to set up your profit target and stop loss, and entry orders that you're using for your scalping system, let me know, and I can show you how to do that in Blackbird. All right, well, so it looks like, we have a few more people in the room. So, actually, we have another new person in the room, I believe. So let me ask again here, if anybody would like to, if for the new people in the room, or the fairly new people in the room, would you like to hear the workshop introduction? All right. So the workshop introduction is, I explain what is done in these workshops, and more importantly, what is not done in these workshops. All right. And then secondly, I'll explain how the recordings work. So that way, how you can get how you can watch a copy, a recording of your copy, as quickly as possible. All right. And then the last topic is if you do have a question about using a third party or custom indicator, right? I'll explain what third party or custom indicators I can install into my machine here, right? So, yeah. All right. All right. Looks like Melray has a question for me. So, all right, let me put that away. And let me clear that out there. All right, let's see what Melroy has. Yeah, so Melroy is asking, how do you reset the risk value if your SIM account has made a loss? So yeah, what is this risk value you're talking about? So Melroy, I'm not sure what you're talking about there. So there is a risk management here, right? But this is a ratio, right? A 2 to 1. So, that doesn't get reset. If the last trade had a loss. Um, so yeah, I'm not sure what you're referring to. Now in the money management, the only risk, there's a risk per trade here, right? So if you're using percentage of account, then um, by default, right, this says use NinjaTrader account size. So there is no need to um, adjust anything. Well, I guess, I don't know, maybe you're asking how do you adjust the risk amount? I mean, this is it right here. You just open up your money management and go in and, set whatever new percentage you want there. So if 2% is too much, here we go, 2%, right? So if that's too high, just go in there and you can knock it down to 1.5%, right? Like so. Um, yeah, so this is the only thing I could think of um, as a risk value here. Yeah, so if you can explain, um, trying to use the terminology, actually, um, written on the money management menu here to help, help me focus in on exactly what you're asking about there. So, um, and then the other thing, it says, please let me know, and also if you can email me. Sorry, I don't email people. You can email support, and Mike will get back to you. So, but no, I don't email people. Sorry. So the only email address that we have available is support. Everything goes through support. Yeah. All right. Yeah. So Melroy, if I didn't answer your question, if I didn't, yeah, figure out exactly what you're talking about, yeah, let me know. Yeah, and I guess yeah, one other secondary part to your question. She mentioned I think you're trying to say that, yeah, you don't want a manual trade to execute here. So as you can see, the risk per trade um, doesn't have a manual trading because it doesn't apply to manual trading versus auto trading, right? A risk per trade is just setting the risk per any trade, right? It doesn't matter if it's auto or manual there. Yeah. So, all right. Well, I think that's kind of as far as I can go there. Since, yeah, since I'm not fully understanding your Melroy's question. So, all right. Well, gentlemen, if anybody else has some questions for me, please go ahead and get it typed into the Q&A window. Also, just, yeah, I should have mentioned this earlier for the new people. Well, Dwayne knows that we use the Q&A window. So Ned, the chat window should be disabled. So we use the question and answers window in these workshops, the Q&A window there. So that way I can manage what questions I have answered already and which ones I still need to answer. So. All right. So being new, I'm sure you guys must have more questions for me. So whatever you got, go ahead and throw it at me, and I'll do my best to answer it. All right, guys. So while I'm waiting for the next round of questions to come in here, yeah, I'm just gonna mute my microphone and Milroy said he may have missed me. Sorry, Milroy. Basically, I couldn't answer your question because I didn't. Um, the way you phrased it, there is no money management for that risk value that you're talking about. So essentially, um, let's start over and try and rephrase your question using terminology from the money management menu here. Yeah. Okay, so we're talking about daily loss. Okay, there we go. Yeah, so right, daily loss. All right, so there we go. So there's your daily loss. So let's say you want to set it at 500. There you go. And you can see, right, you have this daily loss. Well, all of these daily safeguards here, they are by default set to auto trading and manual trading. So if you didn't want them to apply to manual trading, you can just turn off the manual trading there. So now you can manually trade, and then Blackbird would just ignore the money management here. So how do you make it reset? Um, you don't. That defeats the whole purpose of setting a money management rule. I mean, instead of resetting it, just don't use it. Um, yeah, I think you're kind of missing the point of, having a net max loss there. So, but um, yeah, well, yeah, let me kind of rephrase that another way here. So, um, if you're okay, yeah, so I guess here's a scenario that might make sense here. So if you're practicing and right, you're practicing, trading on sim as you mentioned in your first question there, and you blow out your $500 loss for the day, then, you know, obviously you shouldn't be resetting, but if you're just, trying to do some sim trading and practicing there, what you can do is, let's see here. Hold on. Let me get a trade or two going here. All right. There. All right. So hopefully I'll get a loss here. All right. There. Enable that. Let me re-enable the manual trading there. Okay, good. So I do have a loss, and let's see if I can get another loss in here as well. There we go. Excellent. All right. So we have two losses there. So if we go over to the performance panel here, right, on the side menu, we can see, there we go. So I have two losses there, right? And we can look down here, right, daily counts. So we can see losers, I have two, total trades two, right? So you can go in here and actually readjust, override these numbers. However, it depends on what you're using for your metrics here. So if I hit the pencil button here, so we can see right here, it says, hey, you're using the NinjaTrader account performance. So that means you can't override these because you can't. So you would have to go to NinjaTrader to override the account performance. You'd have to ask NinjaTrader, hey, how do I override this stuff? And the short version of that is NinjaTrader doesn't allow you to. So, right, so the net effect is you can't override your account performance when you're using NinjaTrader's account performance. So let's open up Blackbird here. So this, now that we've kind of, taken a few steps here, this is most likely what you're trying to get at here. So instead of using NinjaTrader's account performance, you'll need to switch over to the overrideable account performance there, right? And we'll put it in individual mode, right? So that means for this Blackbird only, right? Group mode is if you're running multiple Blackbirds on different charts, different instruments, then the Blackbirds will they'll combine their performance together, right? And so your money management rules here will be applied to the aggregated Blackbird trade performances, right? They'll all be added together there. So anyways, let's put it on individual mode here. All right. And now click OK. And let's go back to the performance panel here. And remember, you can pin this, guys, right? It has a pin. So just like that. So if you want to pin it, you can do that. Or remember, you can drag the menus off to the side there. So that way it's not covering up any of your chart, right? So now if we hit the pencil button there, right, the edit, did I not? Did I cancel that? And individual mode. Yeah, that is on individual mode. All right. And let's see here. There we go. All right, so switch over to, so I was on group mode. I must have clicked it by accident when I was kind of clicking on the notice here. All right, so there you go, individual mode. So now I can go in here and I can edit this. So I can knock this, or yeah, I'm at a negative, so there you go. I could take $5 off if I wanted to, right? You know, or you know, I can say, okay, I'll start off at -50, something like that. Or obviously you could completely, you know, reset it back to 0 there, right? And you can even go and reset the number of trades and the current consecutive losers, right? You can reset all that stuff there. So, like so. And click OK. And oh, there we go. So yeah, let me put this, also put this back on individual mode. There we go. Yeah. So now we can see, right, everything has been cleared out. So, right, but if you want to see what NinjaTrader is recording, right, we can put it back on the NinjaTrader performance there, and there you go. That's what NinjaTrader has recorded. So, but then if you go back to individual mode, right, if you modified any of those, that's permanent. So you can't undo modifying the individual mode here. Let's actually, there we go, stretch that out a little bit. So yeah, so all those changes are permanent now. So all right, so okay, let me get back to the Q&A window here and see if you have, yeah, see what else you're, looks like you have some follow-ups here. Okay, yeah, so here's kind of a question here. So what about sim account? If there's a loss and then you switch Blackbird over to a live account. Yeah, so that will, if you switch accounts, that will reset Blackbird. So, all right. So for example, okay, yeah, let's put this back on NinjaTrader performance, right? Because we can see, right, we have a loss, $200 there. All right. And now let's go and let's switch the account here. Actually, easier said than done. Yeah, I don't actually have an account. So let's go add another account. All right. All right, so it says, yeah, we need a connect and disconnect, but I don't think you actually do. Okay, so let's see if we can switch Blackbird over to that new Sim 102 without having to disconnect and reconnect here. All right, so I'll turn the strategy off. There we go. Now NinjaTrader allows me to change the sim account, and let's enable it. And there. All right, let's pull this over. There we go. Let's see. All right, that's on overridable. Let's go to NinjaTrader performance. And so there we go. So looking at NinjaTrader's performance records, right? The Sim 102 doesn't have any trades yet. So as you would expect, everything is zeroed out. All right. Yeah. So keep in mind that, right, NinjaTrader keeps separate records for each account, right? And strategies do the same thing. All right. So, all right. Well, there we go. So there was a pretty interesting, yeah, kind of technical question there. So, okay, yeah, it looks like Milroy's got the answer he needed, squared away, good to go. So, all right, let me clear that out. All right, so gentlemen, if anybody else has any other Blackbird questions for me, please go ahead and put them in the Q&A window, and yeah, and we'll get you the answers. Well, I'll try and get you the answers you need. So, yeah, Dwayne's asking, can I demonstrate a basic Blackbird setup utilizing a built-in indicator? So, what's this built-in indicator used for? So, what's the purpose of this built-in indicator? What's it to do? Like, for a stop loss, you want to see a stop loss running on, say, something like the super trend. All right, yeah, so while I'm waiting on, yes, okay, you bet. So the super trend actually is not a built-in indicator, but it is a commonly asked question about, applying a stop loss, to a stop loss type of indicator there. But let me, there. Yeah, and also, I guess, yeah, another little tip here. Remember, guys, if you pull out any of these menu chart panels here, you can always go back to your Blackbird layout menu here, and you can always reset everything back to defaults there. So boom, right? It just popped it back into the side menu here. Right, so there it is again. So yeah. All right. So yeah, let's I guess let's get this super trend installed here. Actually, instead of hunting for that super trend, I'm just going to use the excuse me, let me take a drink of water. I'm going to use the ATR trailing stop here. All right, hopefully I got that frog out of my throat. So there we go. All right, so we'll just go with the market entry. And just, well, you don't actually have to use a profit target if you don't want to. So I'll just jump down to the stop loss here. Right now, the ATR trailing stop, right? That's a third-party indicator. So obviously we can't you can't build a quick list using indicators that may not be installed, right? So the only stop loss indicators here are the built-in ones from NinjaTrader, right? So NinjaTrader comes with the Parabolic SAR, comes with the EMA, SMA, and others. So since we don't have one here for the ATR trailing stop here, usually what I'll do is I might start with just go with the SMA or EMA one, and then replace the EMA with the ATR trailing stop indicator here. But I will just do this from scratch. So let's just go to custom. So we're going to build this stop loss from scratch. So let's open that up and let's move that over. So, all right. So in the initial placement here, right? So the initial placement in this case is going to be, right? It's not going to be price, right? So you can see the mode is defaults to price. So that's where you can select bar prices there, whatever. So, but we're going to switch this over to indicator, right? Indicator. And now here is our list of indicators. So now I was playing with the HMA, you know, a little bit ago. So Blackbird kind of remembered, you know, maybe you might want to use the HMA again. So, but let's clear that out. And let's go to the top of the list here. So there we go. There's lizard indicators, and there's that ATR trailing stop. So I'll just select that, double click on it, right? Adds it down below. Now, one thing you have to remember is adjust all of your settings to match whatever settings you're using on your chart. All right. So, and then you have to figure out, if you're going to use a custom indicator, what plot do you want your stop loss to follow, right? So the stop dot and the stop line are actually, you know, it's two plots on top of each other. So we'll just go with the stop dot, and I'm using all the default settings here, so I'm not going to change anything. That's what's on the chart. All right, so there we go. So we have our indicator used or selected there. Now, that's just the initial placement. So if you want your stop loss to follow an indicator, you have to create a trailing roll. Just like when Ninja's ATM, right? You have to attach a stop loss to an indicator. So trailing rolls does attachments, but it does a lot more. It also sets up conditions. So that way you can prevent trailing from occurring until something else happens. So, all right. So we're going to add a trailing roll here, you know, and so, for example, like what makes trailing actions more powerful is we can go into the triggers and we can say, let's wait for, where is it? There we go, profit or loss. I'll just use something simple, and you know, we'll wait for what we're on the end queue. All right. So, yeah, actually, I probably really need to wait for, yeah, probably at least, well, I'm on a 30 range chart. Probably need to wait for at least 50 points. Something like that. Here, let me take a look. Yeah, I'm on a 30 range chart. Okay. Wow. All right. Yeah, so, okay. Actually, no, I'll knock that down to 30 points. So that would effectively be 4 range bars, or approximately, right? So what this means is this trailing of the ATR trailing stop will not kick in, you know, it will not start trailing until there's at least 30 points in profit, right? So that's the difference between, like, one of the kind of core differences between Ninja's ATM and attaching a stop loss to an indicator versus a trailing roll here, right? So now here is where we attach the stop loss to the indicators in the action, right? So what action do we take after 30 points of profit has been achieved? What action do we take? Well, we're going to move the order, right? We're going to move that order to, right? So we're not going to move it to the last price. We're going to have it follow an indicator. And obviously, we're going to have it follow that ATR trailing stop indicator. There we go. So again, just remember to adjust whatever indicator settings you might have modified, so that way this matches what's on your chart. And right, so there we go. So we're now, if we stretch this out, right, we're moving that stop loss, right, so that it follows the ATR trailing stop indicator, and then the repeat, right? So if you want it to be a continuous trailing, then we need to set the repeat to indefinitely. There you go. And because this is an indicator, right? Indicators update once per bar. So we'll just leave this on once per bar. So, and there you go. That's it in a nutshell. So now let's go short. So boom, there's our stop loss, right? Starting right there on the indicator. Now we can see the indicator is falling, but that stop loss is going to stay there, because remember, let's open up the trailing actions here, right? Remember, we have this trigger here. So the trailing will not occur until we have 30 points of profit. So that stop loss is going to stay there, even if the indicator, keeps moving downwards. That stop loss is stuck there until the trigger has occurred. So, yeah. All right. Yeah. Now there's a bunch of videos, on using the ATR trailing stop or the super trend. So if you want to watch any other videos here, like I think there is another good example here. So again, let's go to support. Actually, no, hold on. Yeah, I'm gonna go to support documentation. Okay, so back on this starting page here, let's go to Blackbird. And right here on the bottom, right, we can see there's videos, training videos right there. So let's go to that page. So now these are the fully in-depth videos explaining all the functionality here, right? So we can see here, right, management buttons, right? The menu on the top here, right? So these are the management buttons here, right? And then there's a video on the trade signals, right? How do these function here? And then the big one here, this is where Blackbird really has most of its power, is these custom order sets here, right? Setting up your orders here. Anyways, those are the big ones. I wanted to take you down to, so if you're already using an ATM there, this one, right, you probably should definitely watch this one. So that's kind of a good way to also kind of cut your teeth on setting up your profit target and your stop loss and your entry orders there. So, but let's see here, the one I'm trying to take you to, oh, there we go, this one right here. Yeah, so best practice is when you're using an indicator to set a stop loss, right? Because if we go back to the chart, what happens? There we go. Oh, cool. We actually saw that. So there we go. We got 30 points in profit, and now that stop loss is trailing the ATR trailing stop indicator. So, man, that was kind of lucky, getting in there just at the right time. But anyways, the point, going back to my previous thing, right? The point about this kind of best practices when using an indicator is, what's going to happen if I go long, right? That should be pretty obvious what would happen if you go long. Obviously, you can't put a stop loss above the market. So, right, so that's obviously a major issue when you're using an indicator to trail your stop loss is, quite often people will try and take a trade that goes against their stop loss indicator. So, right, so yeah, definitely you'll want to watch that if you're interested in using indicators for setting the price of your stop loss. But in any case, there's a bunch of kind of common, well, that's why it's called FAQ, right? All right, these are all FAQ videos here. So there's a good handful of them there. Yeah. And to overload you with even more homework, if we go back to the training workshops page here, let me scroll down to the recording section, and let's use the little search box. So I use this as an example because it does get asked a lot. So, right, I mentioned the super trend, right, as an indicator. So if there is a specific indicator that you want to use with your stop loss, or maybe your entry order, something like that, just type the indicator in there and see if anything pops up. But if you hit search, then there we go, right? Brings up YouTube, and there's your search term. All right, just remember you want to use this search box here, not the one up at top. All right, so you want to stay within the Shark Indicators channel, obviously. So use the search box down there. And there you go. So Bloodhound, okay, yeah, so that's the Bloodhound one with Super Trend. It's probably using the Super Trend as a trend filter. Another Bloodhound, there you go, there's a Blackbird. Yeah, so there you go. Changing, right, your indicator settings when for setting up trailing rules, right? So maybe you might want to tighten up the settings for your super trend or whatever indicator you're using, right, to tighten up that stop loss. So, right, so you can switch from one super trend, with looser indicator settings, and then switch to a super trend with tighter indicator settings. Oh, yeah, here we go. Somebody was asking about this. Protecting your stop loss from wicks hitting the super trend. Oh, there's that one. Oh, and there's an improved version. Okay. So there we go. 2 videos, the same, just an improved one. But anyways, the point is, yeah, there's a bunch of Blackbird videos in here. Yeah, showing you how to set things up. So. Oh, let's see here. Yeah, so let me just kind of reinforce again here. I'm not sure how new you are, Dwayne, but if you're very new, definitely go through the getting started videos here, right? Just go to support documentation on the top, right? So this is the starting page here. So definitely just go through those. Those are all very short videos, so that shouldn't take too long at all. So. All right, gentlemen. I think that looks like that answered Dwayne's question. All right. Um, let's see. Wow. Okay, we're finally at the 1 hour mark. So not too bad for a workshop. Uh, so with that, gentlemen, if there's any more questions I can answer, then please put them into the Q&A window for me. And as I'm waiting for some more questions, I'm going to go ahead and start the timer here and give everybody about 6 or 7 more minutes or so, to about 10 minutes past the hour. All right, and if I don't see any more questions, well, now it's within the next 5 minutes. All right, so if I don't see any more questions coming in within the next 5 minutes or so, 5 to 6 minutes, then I will just assume that we are done. But if you still have further questions, guys, keep putting those questions into the Q&A window for me, and I'll keep getting them answered. All right, so essentially, for the new people, these workshops go almost as long as necessary to get everybody's questions answered. And then once there's a lengthy period of no more questions, that's how I kind of know that the workshop it has come to an end, is when there's just no more questions coming in. All right, guys. So you got 5 minutes or so to get some more questions in. Otherwise, we'll wrap it up if there's no more questions. So, yeah. All right. So while I'm waiting, for that 5 minute period and waiting for more questions, I guess not. Let's see what Dean has. Dean says my voice is muffled. Well, let's do a sound check. Guys, how am I sounding today? I'll check my Zoom audio settings. Oh, you know what? I don't check this enough, and I know I need to. All right, there's a problem. Yeah, Zoom always knocks down the volume of my microphone. Internally, Zoom knocks down the volume. So I should be quite a bit louder now. I do have noise removal enabled, but it is set to low, so that should not, affect the quality of my voice. But if anybody else here would like to chime in and let me know if they think my voice is muffled, I do appreciate the feedback. But there's really nothing else I can set in Zoom. Well, I mean, I could turn the noise removal off, but I always, in all of our company team meetings and, meeting with other people, in the company, nobody's ever complained about, my volume, my audio being muffled. And rest assured, when we're in a team meeting, if somebody's volume has problems, if somebody's microphone has problems, we'd let them know immediately. So, yeah, we're not shy about saying, hey, fix your microphone, when we're in team meetings. So, and yeah, people do every once in a while remind me that my volume's low and I know I need to go back into Zoom and turn it back up again. So, yeah, Dean says that's better. Yeah, so yeah, I did increase the input volume back up to 80 where it should be. And I've been hoping that Zoom would fix this for many years, but they haven't yet. So I do have automatic adjust microphone volume disabled. So it should not be adjusting my microphone volume, but it does anyways. So, all right. Anyways, thanks, Dean, for letting me know. Yeah. So there you go. Side note for anybody else who uses Zoom. And if people are saying, hey, your microphone's too low, yeah, you could be experiencing that little quirk with Zoom as well, dropping your microphone volume. All right. Well, anyways, guys, a couple more minutes here to get some more Blackbird questions in. Otherwise, we'll wrap it up for the day. Oh, and also, I guess, yeah, for the other people late in the room, let me just announce again here that we've had a couple of reports of issues with 8.1.8, which was just released. So yeah, be mindful of that. But then again, we always have complaints. Somebody's always saying, hey, the latest update broke something, when in fact it didn't. So, we always get a lot of false positive claims that the latest update of NinjaTrader broke something when it didn't. So we haven't been able to confirm yet that there truly is a problem with 8.1.8, but just be mindful. If you do experience a problem with 1.8, then just go back to 1.7.2. Yeah, so we did have a customer who did revert back to yeah, we did have a customer that reverted back to 7.2 and then said everything started working again. So, yeah. So, I mean, yeah, I don't see any real reason to upgrade unless, of course, you really, really want to start trading, stock futures. So, yeah. Otherwise, really that's what this update's about. So it's all about SSF. So, there's a couple of new cool things in there, but so, yeah. So if you don't really need, any of the new stuff here in 8.0, then I would suggest just holding off there for another week or two. So actually, surprisingly, none of my NinjaTraders have notified me yet of this update. So yeah, so yeah, I had to manually upgrade. All right, gentlemen. Well, it's been actually more than 8 minutes since I made the countdown. However, I see Richard just joined us. So, Richard, I'll give you a minute or two to see if you had any Blackbird questions for me. All right. So, if you do have some Blackbird questions, let me know, and I'll hold off on closing out the workshop there so you can get your question in, and I'll get it answered for you. But Richard, if you don't have any questions, if you're just jumping in to see what's going on, let me know. Yeah, because otherwise I was gonna wrap up the workshop, so I haven't had any questions in quite some time. Oh, and Charles. All right, yeah, I see Charles is in here too. Yeah, so Charles, Richard, I'll give you guys a couple of minutes to see if you have any Blackbird questions for me. And if not, then I'm gonna wrap it up. So. Well, Richard, I see you had your hand raised, which I don't actually use that in the room. So if you did have a question, open up the Q&A window, right? So type your question into the Q&A window, which is where questions go, right? Hence the name question and answers window. So, all right. So yeah, I'll give you a couple of minutes to, to get your question into the Q&A window for me if you have something. Okay, gentlemen, I'm not getting any response from anybody. So I'm gonna assume that we are done for the day. There's no more questions. So just, usual reminder here, if you do have questions that you would like answered in the workshops, you can always email those questions in anytime during the week. And in the subject line of your email, just put workshop question, right? So that way Mike knows what your intention is with your email. All right, and then I'll see your email and I'll get your questions answered in the next workshop. All right, so yeah, that's always available to you. And if you do have a question, say like a Bloodhound question about building, a trading system there, if you can, please attach some screenshots, outlining things. Oops, wrong. Try and attach a screenshot to your email, pointing out, things with notes, trying to add notes to explain your trading system there, right? That helps, that goes a long ways versus just trying to write down all the trading rules there. So attached screenshots really, really help a lot. So, all right, gentlemen, with that, I'm gonna close up shop here. And so you guys have a good weekend, and I'm sure I'll be seeing a couple of you more often here in these workshops if you can manage to attend them. So, all right. Okay, guys, have a good rest of your Friday and a good weekend, and I'll see you next time.